All right. Good evening and welcome to the May 1st, 2025 meeting of the Milford School Committee. This meeting is being broadcast and recorded by Milford TV, and any copies can be obtained at the request of this board or through central office. We'll start tonight with announcements, correspondence, and distribution. Anybody have anything for that? No? All right. Move over to invitation to speak, which someone back there behind the pole. Pass on that. Which moves us right up to the 2025-2026 Handbook and School Improvement Plan for Shining Star. Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
So we can start, as we have in the past, with the handbook. Thanks
Sure.
again for the link on just the changes, which is incredibly helpful.
Okay, joining me tonight is Patty Reed, classroom teacher and CTL. Hello. So changes to the handbook, minimal changes. You can see on the outline there, updated staff list, the preventative health screening, adding the wording of pre-K to the vision screening portion, the removal of the cost wording associated with lunches at the preschool, the addition of the policy of the tobacco products on school premises, addition of the bullying prevention policy, the addition of the prompt investigation into bullying, and on page 133, updated important numbers.
Any questions on the handbook changes? Or handbook in general? I see none, so we'll start with a motion to approve the 2025-26 Shining Star Handbook.
So moved.
Motion by Michael, second by John. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. On to the School Improvement Plan goals, update and the new plan.
Sure. So I'll give an update on our goals from this school year. So the first goal was focused on curriculum mapping and creating common assessments on SEL. And that goal was met. The staff met during contractual time. A survey was sent home to families seeking feedback. I'm sorry, this wasn't on the SEL. This was on our report card. We revised the report card down at the preschool, and we wanted to get feedback from the families. And the feedback was very, very positive. 93% of the families felt that the layout was easy to understand. 97% felt that the report card covered all key areas of their child's development. And 97% of the families that reported out that the language was clear and easy to understand. So we're very happy with that goal. The second goal was the focus on SEL, and here the staff needed to finalize the scope and sequence and create common assessments for just the SEL area. And that was met. The staff created the common assessments to address the SEL standards, and it's included in our curriculum mapping at the preschool. The third goal was focused on building positive relationships with families and building the capacity for more family engagement opportunities for our families. And that goal was met. We had numerous family engagement opportunities for our preschool families. That was very well attended. So we're happy that that goal was met. And we had a great art show this year that we want to continue to carry on over to next year. So we're looking forward to that. The fourth goal was focused on the MTSS process and creating some TCT time, teacher collaboration time, creating protocols, creating guidelines for discussions. Those things were completed and implemented. However, there was a portion of the goal where we wanted to look at adding information into a dashboard, either Aspen or Open Architects, and we did not meet that portion of the goal. So that's a goal that will transfer over to this year. Which
Max,
brings
I have a quick question on that.
Yes, please.
Thanks for the update, Corey, and I love seeing all the additional family engagement and also knowing the Invention Convention continues because that's one of the
Yes.
best. Was the report card implemented this year or will it be implemented next year?
The report card was implemented this year.
So midway, they get a midway? Okay.
So the report card was completed, report cards go out in January and
Okay.
then they go out in June. We do
Got
them
it.
twice a year. So it was completed and the survey went out and we got feedback prior to it going out.
For January?
For
Awesome.
January,
Great. Thank
yes.
you. Thanks, Matt.
Did you want to share anything from feedback from the families on the report card?
No, I think you covered it. They all seemed to be happy with it. It was easy for them to follow and understand, and just it was all positive.
Anything else on those updates? All right, we can move on to the improvement plan.
Okay, so our first, the focus on our first goal is focused on assessing students. So the goal is that all preschool students' strengths and areas of need will be accurately identified. So at present, Shining Star uses the developmental assessment of young children as the primary evaluation tool for determining eligibility for special education services. This is a reliable and valuable resource for assessing early childhood development. However, we've noticed that as the center continues to serve a diverse student population, including a growing number of EL learners, a limitation in the DAISY is that it is not normed for dual language learners. So with the rising numbers in the preschool, that warrants us to look at that gap in concerns with the tool's ability to effectively and accurately assess the developmental needs for children from diverse linguistic backgrounds. So although the current tool is functional and continues to serve its purpose, researching new options for an accurate evaluation tool to address that area is best practice. So as a team, we want to review and revise the current tools that we currently have in place, and we want to research and field test a reliable, developmentally appropriate special education evaluation tool to approve the accuracy. We also want to rewrite the preschool readiness checklist that is currently in place and used as part of our screening process for students that are referred to for special education testing to align with the format and objectives of the new IEP. So that's the first goal. The second goal focuses on providing students with programming to meet their needs. The goal is that all students will be placed in the appropriate classroom at Shining Star prior to the start of the school year. Their progress will be continuously monitored and assessed to ensure the placement meets the needs of their developmental and educational needs. We want to create a transparent process for student placement by establishing a rubric to help guide the team in determining a developmentally appropriate placement. The transparent, structured, and evidence-based rubric will provide clear, consistent criteria for the team to assess students' developmental, social, emotional, and academic requirements based on the criteria categories of a student's age, services received during early intervention, the child's disability determination, and recommended services. Okay. The focus of our third and final goal is what we are doing as a multidisciplinary team when students require supports to meet their needs. So the goal is that students will receive targeted academic and social emotional support through goals developed by teachers trained in the MTSS process and preschool dashboard procedures. So as I said previously, during this school year, a lot of progress was made in developing and refining the protocols for the MTSS process. And the next phase in this journey involves reviewing our data tools and inventory and selecting a platform to organize the data. This will enable the educators to effectively utilize a variety of data sources to enhance teaching and learning for all students in an effort to create goals in order to provide targeted academic and social emotional direct support on data-informed decisions. And that's our third goal.
All right, questions on those goals?
I'm sorry, I just have a couple, Corey. Thank you
Sure.
for taking us through that. On the platform question, and maybe
Yes.
this is more towards Dr. Kinsley, is that not a district's decision?
For the
Sort of
open
kind of-
architect. Yeah, that's what you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it is, and we're moving that way as a district.
Okay.
It's just not built out yet. for
That's
us.
fine. I just didn't know if you were making a decision as Shining
Mhm.
Star, so we're making a decision as a district. That's what you'll implement at Shining Star, which
Yes.
makes sense. Okay, thanks, Corey. And then I never thought to ask this before. We've talked about dual language, which is super exciting. Is it also that we would potentially go to pre-K with that? I guess I was always thinking we'd roll it out for higher grades, but it didn't dawn on me. Is that actually a consideration at pre-K as well?
I have not had a discussion with Jen about that, but
Just as you brought up
Yeah.
those assessments, it made me think of that, Corey. I'd just be curious to know if that's something that we're thinking about in the beginning. Thank you. Okay, cool. Excited for what's to come.
me too.
I'll start with, thank you very much for putting everything together and coming in to present. I know it's a lot of work. I think every year I ask the presenters, I know it's the school improvement plan, you're looking for parental help. How was that this year as far as from getting people to come in for those meetings and giving input?
Our PTO meetings are not very well attended. I don't know why they're not very well attended. We do have, one reason could be is that the children are 3 and 4, and they do have siblings, and there are families that are very actively involved in Memorial PTO, Brookside PTO, Woodland PTO, and we just, we don't have a lot of support with families coming to our PTO meetings.
Okay. And just in regards to the goal number 2, I guess to improve upon the current rubric. Do you find that you're having a need to improve, or?
So we don't currently have a rubric in place.
Okay.
So we have, we look at our data, but it's, we want to make it a transparent process. So when we have families that are coming in for eligibility meetings, there's a transparent process as to what would constitute a student coming 5 full days versus a student coming 2 mornings. The process can sometimes be subjective, so we want to make it very objective, transparent, clear, based within evidence-based practices. So we don't have one in place, and we feel that there's a need to create that.
Sounds good. Great. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that, Corey?
Sure.
So the rubric is more for admissions versus classroom placement. Is that how to think about it? Or would you also use it to allocate amongst?
It would be part of the conversation when students are found eligible for special education services, but it's also for placement.
Okay, thanks. Got it.
Thank you. Further questions? Comments? Nothing?
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
I would like to say, though, our families do attend our family engagement opportunities, so that's very well attended.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
We're
just,
happy with
and I
that.
always ask just to see about getting parents involved in some of these other not so popular types of groups. And for them to know and to understand, how starting at that lower level it can continue on, because again, each school has these school improvement plan committees to help kind of foster what they may see from the outside and to be able to give them the opportunity to speak directly to staff.
And we would love to have them join us, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one quick thing. Again, thank you for putting this together. This is actually a request from a friend of mine who is trying to register. She couldn't figure out what the prices were. And I'm looking at the website now, and I can't find anywhere where the prices are for registration.
Okay, well, she can reach out directly to our main office, and I can talk to Tim and have him put up.
Yeah, I think that'd just be
those
nice.
prices,
Just one
yeah.
less thing, because she works full time, and then at night she's trying to just do her research, so it's
Of
hard
course.
to kind of make it all work.
Yeah, we can put it on our page on the district page, and also I'm sure he can create a tab
Yeah,
on the district-wide one.
perfect. Thank you.
And we do still have openings for those that are watching.
Not many.
A few openings. No, well, we don't know. No, not
Watching? No.
openings.
Are they watching? Or-
I don't know. I didn't know. I'm watching of it.
The answer is yes.
We have 27 remaining spots. So we have had 77 we have a total of 104 spots, 77 families registered, which leaves us with 27 spots, so.
Excellent.
Quick question, does that get pushed out in the digital backpack that Tim puts out?
Yes,
But district-wide?
yes.
Okay.
But I can give him, ask him to do a little push out
You don't need
for
to
this
email?
next one, that we do still have open spots. So,
Excellent.
they won't be open.
Yes.
for
I'll make a
long.
motion to approve the handbook and the school improvement plan as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Megan, second by Brendan. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much for
Thank
coming and
you.
presenting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Patty.
Good job.
All right, so that brings us to agenda item 4, which is the MHS request for campus aid. So obviously, there's been a bit of discussion around some information that this committee has heard over the last month or so related to campus aids. So we asked Dr. Otland to come and share a little more about the request and about just the general safety standpoint at the high school. So thanks for coming.
Of course, thanks, Jonathan. So I'll take a moment just to provide the committee with sort of a broad overview of the issue, and then I'm happy to do my best to respond to any questions you have and listen to your feedback as well. So before talking about the request, I think it may be helpful for both the committee and members of the public to understand what measures we already have in place to promote safety and security and appropriate monitoring here in school. So from a staffing standpoint, the vast majority of the adults who work in the building are teaching kids, right? We have a very small number of folks that are not teaching kids and who are available to respond to situations that may arise. So it's myself, our associate principal, 2 assistant principals, and our dean of students. We employ 3 campus aides presently, in addition to a greeter who works at the front door. Our campus aid schedules are staggered. There's one day a week where we have 3 on duty at once. All of the days we have 2 on duty. If someone calls out, we're typically not able to replace that individual. We have our school resource officer, Anthony Bravosi, who is here in the building and on campus the vast majority of hours that schools are in session, not 100% of the hours that schools are in session, but the vast majority. I would estimate, I'd have to defer to Anthony, but I would estimate that Anthony is probably on campus or in the building over 90% of the hours that school is in session. In addition to staffing, we have a camera system. The committee and the town has invested substantial funds in recent years to ensure that our camera system is operational and is regularly upgraded, and that plays a very critical role in our ability to monitor a large and sprawling building and a large and sprawling campus. It is particularly important if we have to do follow-up investigatory work. Our camera coverage is very strong. There are a few zones in the building where we would like to add additional capacity, but by and large, our camera coverage is very strong. We use monitoring software here in the building on our network and on our computers as well that can help us detect any number of issues related to security or student safety and student wellness. We tell our students on the very first day of school that they should really have no expectation of privacy when using taxpayer-issued machines and when operating private devices over taxpayer-funded networks. And so we're using technology that is scanning drive accounts, email traffic, and web searches. And that's in operation 24/7. And we are frequently responding to incidents that are being flagged outside of school hours. In addition to sort of staffing and technology, we also do have our faculty serve duties in the building. We have teachers that serve on bathroom duty and who serve on lunch duty. As I've written about in my budget requests, our current contractual arrangement is such that we cannot provide sufficient coverage for all zones of the building with teacher duties that we would like to, and that is one of the constraints that I think has limited our ability to respond as effectively as we'd like to some of the problems that we experience here in school. In terms of the challenges that we are facing, they are They're not novel challenges. They're not unique to Milford. They're not unique to Milford High School. They're pretty old challenges, but they're pretty persistent and very difficult challenges to eradicate in school. So one is we know that we have students that are using controlled substances in our restrooms, primarily vaping nicotine products. And we do have episodes of vandalism that occur in our restrooms and in other parts of the building periodically as well. Most members of the committee, I think, know that I served as an assistant principal at Hudson High School for 8 years prior to coming here to Milford. In my professional opinion, I don't think that the magnitude of the issues that we face here at Milford are really any different than what I experienced up at Hudson. There's no publicly available data that's available school to school by which to give us the ability to sort of accurately compare what we're experiencing here at Milford High School to other schools and tell you whether it's better, worse, or similar. All I can speak to is my lived experience at Hudson High School for 8 years as an assistant principal, and I would not note any significant difference between the frequency and the magnitude of the challenges that we face here and what I saw when we were in Hudson. And while these are serious problems and problems that I very much want to address and improve upon here at school, I also believe that our students' experience here in school is a very, very safe one. I'm actually highly confident that our students' experience at school is a very, very safe one. I'm very confident that if our students and our faculty do not feel safe, this committee would be very in touch with that perception. This is a very safe school. There are instances in school where people make bad choices. And when you bring approximately 1,250 adolescents under one roof, that's part of the business that we do here in school. I don't wish to minimize how upsetting it can be when we have episodes of violence here in school. But when we do have episodes of violence here in school, which are very, very rare, we deal with them decisively. We deal with them assertively. In my time here in school, over the past 8 years, I cannot think of a single episode where we have had any sort of spillover, where there have been bystanders who were injured when we had 2 students involved in an altercation. We have had a couple of instances where staff members had to physically intervene, and there's been some bumps and bruises along the way for staff, and I'm very grateful to my colleagues who've gone above and beyond the call of duty to intervene. We've had students involved in altercations here at school, so I want to be clear that these are challenges that we face from time to time here in school, but this is the exception, not the norm. This is a very safe building for our students and our staff. With respect to the request for campus aids that I made in both the FY25 and FY26 budget request, I do believe that in order for us to improve the quality of our students' experience in the restrooms in particular, we need regular staff supervision in those restrooms. I cannot provide more staff supervision with the resources presently available under the current contractual arrangement. I am very open to alternative suggestions and creative thinking for steps that we might take to try to mitigate the challenge that we're facing. But in my experience as a school administrator, I believe at this stage that the best strategy for us to address these challenges here in school is with higher levels of staff supervision. And again, I do not know how to provide more supervision with the resources that we presently have and with the contractual arrangement that we're presently working under. The last thing that I want to add, and then I'm happy to listen to feedback and answer any questions, is our budgeting process is a transparent, deliberative, democratic process that involves building leaders, district leaders, elected officials, and appointed officials. Like any process, it is an imperfect one, and reasonable people can disagree about what the proper outcomes are in that budget process. I know that my budget requests are one of many competing priorities that decision makers are trying to sort through, and they're trying to figure out how to do the best with the resources that we have available. So while I have every expectation that I will continue to advocate for these resources here at Milford High School, I completely understand why it is not possible for us to simply make each and every resource appear that we know would be a good addition to our school. And so there are the request for campus aides is one of a number of personnel requests that I've forwarded in the past couple of years that we've not been able to support. And I know from my work with the committee, both collectively and individually, it's not because people do not see the value in these requests. We're working under a constrained set of fiscal conditions, and our decision makers need to balance a lot of competing priorities, which I respect and understand.
Thank you very much for all of that, Josh. I'll just open it up to comments, questions, concerns. Michael, go ahead.
Thanks for coming, Josh. Just a few kind of clarifying questions. How much does a campus aid cost for the school season? Do we know? Rough estimate?
Look what we pay now.
Yeah, like a rough idea.
As
If you don't know, that's fine.
I would have to defer to Kevin and Craig and Len on that.
But, yeah,
I don't have it at my fingertips, but something we can get you for sure.
that's fine. So how many hours a week do they work, roughly?
Our campus aides are part-time employees right now, with the exception of our greeter, who is a full-time employee.
Yeah, but roughly how many hours per week?
17 hours per week.
Okay, so we have 3 aides at 17 hours a week, so that's really one kind of full-time equivalent, well, like 1.5 full-time equivalents, just quick math of my head. So how many, so I was trying to think back to when we were in high school. I think we had 2 full-time people wandering around. I was just kind of putting in my head how many full-time staff we need. So how many full-time staff do you think you would need or want to be at the level that you want? Like 2 full-time equivalents, 3 full-time equivalents?
So, so my math, which you can read in the budget request, and I'm happy to review tonight if it's helpful, is I believe we need 3 full-time campus aides in addition to our presently allocated staff in order to provide an appropriate and comprehensive level of coverage in the
So double, okay, good. The greeter, is that person also, how many hours do they work?
full-time.
Full-time, okay, great, yeah.
Just a clarifying question?
Yeah.
We have 3 part-time now, and you said just now 3 full-time would be your request, right?
3 full-time beyond our
So
current,
not double what we have now.
beyond our current allocation.
Yeah.
Full-time equivalent, so the 3 we have are 17 hours apiece, which works out to be at 50-something hours, right? So
So 3 additional, 3 total?
3
Full-time.
additional.
3 additional.
6.
So that's like not double what we have.
full-time equivalent is like roughly 40 hours or 30-something hours a week, right? So is it 3?
So we have 3 at 17, and he's saying we should have 3 at 3 more at 40.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, I think.
I
Yeah.
like 30.
Whatever, close enough.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So
that's
double
correct.
amount of hours.
8 to 2.
Okay. So,
Call 35, how's that?
let me see here. Hold on. Actually, that's all I have for now. Come on. Somebody else has it.
I was just saying, don't make me look back and forth so many times.
Yeah, I've got a lot of unpacking on this, so I'm just gonna try to hit a couple points.
Please.
Obviously, yeah, you went over your staff. I guess I'll look towards administration. I know we have 2 staff members over at Stacy for in a sense, our truancy staff. Are they over here at the high school?
Yeah.
And are they available to help?
If you take them away from that, they're not doing what they're designated to do, which is work with families and students who
Okay.
are missing school.
Yes.
So they're not really like folks that are on duty at any building, but they're in all the buildings working with
Yeah.
students and families and administrators around students who are chronically absent.
Okay. Yeah, so their focus
So
is there,
they're- yeah,
because
they're-
obviously there are
They're
kids.
physically here in the building.
Right, so obviously there are kids
time.
outside of the classroom setting that probably should be in the classroom. So that's why I'm just trying to say, okay, is their main focus just on the truancy side for kids not being at school, or now are we at this point where if these students are not in the classroom and roaming the halls, do we need
They're not
them to
doing-
be
they're not
effectively
doing-
being
They're not
here?
doing that work. No,
Okay,
they're not doing
but
that.
should we? It's
I would say,
more of a
I would say
redundant
no
question,
based
but-
on what their job responsibility.
Okay, all right.
And what the goal of that program is.
Yeah, and going back, I agree with you. I feel that the building is safe, right? I've been in the building a few times here and there. I think maybe it's just the timing. I think that I do see a lot of kids moving around, and I don't know. I'm not going to judge that based on not knowing why. I'm just saying when I'm here, I do see kids, not in a singular form, but in maybe groups of 2 to 4 moving through. I don't know if that's also an issue, but I'm just going to
Sure.
bring it up.
Yeah, and I'm happy to speak to that. It is appropriate that we're having people moving throughout the building. right? Going to the bathroom, going to offices, going to scheduled meetings. So we're gonna have people on the move all the time, right? It is when we have students who are spending more time in the halls than they need to get to their destination, right? And sometimes they're meeting up with friends and taking a lap, for sure.
Never did that.
That is, while I don't want to, I don't want to minimize that. I also want to make it clear that this is not a disruption to our instructional program. This is not really we're not seeing conduct issues emerging from this. When students are out for too long and teachers refer them for being out excessively, we hold them accountable with consequences. The phenomenon that you've observed is students walking around with friends. The method by which we need to neutralize this, which I will plan to be speaking to the committee about in June, is we need to separate students from cell phones during class time. If we separate students from cell phones during class time, what you've observed will be resolved.
Okay. I hope so, like you said. Yeah.
Coordination.
Yes, yeah. And to that, I guess, do you feel what's going on as far as, because obviously, as you said, the vaping and the disposal in the bathrooms and clogging toilets, that's a problem, right? I shared the pictures with you and with the other committee members, and if Carlos is coming back to us as the building facilities team or overseers, we're trying to help him, but he's saying once or twice a week. So I guess my question is, do you feel, is this vandalism happening at pass-through, or kids not in class on hall passes to go for bathroom breaks?
It's difficult to say. Students start accumulating in the building in significant numbers as early as 7:20. By 7:30, we probably have 300 or 400 students here in the building. When school is dismissed at 2:25, I'd say from 2:25 to 3, we've got a couple hundred kids going down to athletics, and we probably have, another 100 to 200 kids that are here on campus. Some of them seeing their teachers for help, some of them kind of hanging out with their friends for a little bit. Our bathrooms are cleaned once a day in the evening. They're not cleaned during the day. So the only time when we very, very infrequently do we get a report from a student who comes down to a house office and says, hey, I was just in the bathroom and there's the following problem. If we get a report like that in the first couple hours of the day, we have some basis by which to try to use our security cameras and try to figure out who is responsible for this, right? If we get the report from a custodian, on Tuesday morning that during the rounds on Monday night, they encountered the following problems, we just have no basis by which to even begin to try to identify who might be responsible and who we need to hold accountable. Back to the request for campus aides. I think having staff in the bathroom in the bathrooms on the regular, I think, is going to deter students from making irresponsible choices. I think it's going to help us identify issues in the bathroom much, much sooner than we are now. And I think the sooner we can identify them, the more effective we can be at responding and holding students accountable.
Okay. Anybody have any follow-up on that before I move on to another question?
No, I do.
Can I actually respond to that too? One thing we're kind of looking at, and I know Wayne and Dr. Josh have had a conversation about this, is possibly putting electric hand dryers in as opposed to paper towels, and that may actually be a pretty common sense kind of solution. We don't see this problem as much. Every once in a while at the middle school, every once in a while at Woodland, but we see it, and I can't say it happens all the time, but it's definitely more frequently happening at the high school. So that could be a solution for the high school. It's just, a no addition to personnel kind of, you're limiting what can kind of go into the toilet that's readily available.
Environmentally friendly.
But possibly. I can't verify that for sure.
Just one point that you brought up, Dr. Altman, and I think it's a point that I had a blinder to, just the amount of kids before and after school that are around that I forget because I haven't been in high school for 20 years. The campus aides that we'd have, they would only be from, basically first bell is the last bell, right? Not before or after, or would we try to maybe stagger some for, like you said, 7:30 to 1:30, and then someone starts at 9, they go until 3 or something. Would that be a possibility?
It absolutely would be a possibility, yeah, and I would be pleased to have some supervisory staff on duty before the start of the day and after the start of the day. At 99 days out of 100, the time before school begins and the time before school ends is fine, completely issue-free, right? Listen, sometimes there may be some vandalism going on and some vaping in the bathrooms, but in terms of problems that come to our attention, 99 days out of 100, we're in great shape before school and after school. And it's because the vast, vast majority of our students conduct themselves responsibly all the time. I want to emphasize that point. And that is true. That's not an exaggeration. The vast, vast majority of our students behave themselves responsibly 100% of the time, right? Given that, sometimes it does strike me, like if I'm here at 7:30 in the morning and I'm one of maybe 5 or 10 adults on campus at that stage, and there's 300 or 400 kids around, like all over the building, like when I reflect on that, it doesn't feel great, But 8 years into my tenure here, I can tell you that while sometimes it doesn't feel great when I reflect on it, we're okay.
Josh, in the hallways, can we isolate or through the cameras who's like when someone's going into the bathroom and when there's an issue? Can we find a way to?
Our cameras absolutely allow us to identify who's going in and out of bathrooms at specific times, but our cameras don't give us any information about when problems are occurring in bathrooms.
But could you find a repeat offender if you were to be like, this person always shows up on that day? You went into that bathroom.
Well, so again, we are most frequently learning about problems in the bathroom with respect to vandalism when our second shift custodians are cleaning. Right. So this is hours after school is closed. Right. So if if we get a report like this, and we had a problem in the lower Boise bathroom, that was detected on Tuesday night, I have hundreds of young men using the lower Boise bathrooms every day. Right. So it's just it's a needle in a haystack at that stage. Certainly, again, we have an excellent camera system and we use it to very good effect. But we need to have more information in order to use it for that purpose, right? If we're going to be able to try to identify who's responsible, we just can't do it with what we've got right now.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
Do you want to keep going?
I have a few more questions, but I'm just trying to. Yeah. I didn't want to steal all the time.
Yeah. You
so.
Again, thanks you for coming. So I, of course, everyone knows my wife's high school teacher. So I asked her, how does she feel in the past? She's been here for 14 years, and she feels that the past 5 or 6 years have been actually the safest that she's been in the high school. She feels that the administration has had a really strong zero tolerance policy for violence and behavior. So, not trying to kiss up to you, Josh, just facts. But thank you. So that's been good. However, so I was also thinking, so it's vandalism, right? And so when I owned the tavern, we had very similar issues, right? We had some vandalism in our bathroom. With the chief of police and said, "What do I do?" And he said something very similar to what you're saying: is you have to do random checks. You have your staff just move in and out of the bathroom at regular times to discourage any bad behavior. Of course I asked about cameras and all that stuff, and he's like, "You're not going to find anything. The best and most effective way is to actually move your staff through that bathroom every so often." And so we did, and it actually curbed a lot of the issues that we had. So what you're telling us, it tracks. And when I have talked to teachers about, how do they feel in the past couple of weeks in the building, same things. They feel that it's very safe, it's very controlled. However, when I bring the bathrooms, it's always like, oh yeah, we have a problem with bathrooms. So this seems super isolated right to the bathrooms. And so I think being creative and trying to figure that out, I thank you for coming in tonight and listening to us. But I think as a committee and as a district, we need to figure this problem out.
Well, thank you, and I would just highlight that this is a problem that's not isolated to teenagers and it's not isolated to schools, right? This is a sad element of our culture that there are people who take pleasure in damaging property. I can't explain it to you. I don't expect any of you to explain it to me. This is a ugly reality that we gotta try to wrestle with, right? I don't think we're ever gonna make it go away. We certainly want to make it a lot more rare than it is right now.
Right, before you take off again, I just wanted to share off the back of what Michael just said. I've talked to probably 6 to 8, excuse me, 6 to 8, friends, close friends I have that work here too. Similar comments in terms of safety and security and fighting and stuff like that. They said that there is virtually none. They're not worried about that, but similar to what Michael said.
I feel like I have to knock on wood every time.
I know,
somebody
I'm
says
sorry.
something.
They've all said the same thing, though. The bathrooms are a concern. I've seen pictures from facilities. I've seen pictures from contractors. It's the same pictures. I mean, I didn't know they made so many different types of vaping devices, but I do now just from these pictures. So one thing that I would be curious to get, because if we look back at the budget request, I believe it was right around 80,000 for the 3 campus aids. So just, we see that, we saw it, listed in the priority list. It was isolated, it was low, but obviously there are a lot of initiatives that you were trying to cover and a lot of very important things learning-wise that obviously had to take precedent while we were trying to balance this stuff out. But instead of just looking at it in terms of $80,000 for 3 campus aids, I would like to know if we could go back. I'm kind of looking at administration. Go back to when you asked for it last year, the last 2 or 3 years. What have we spent on repairing bathrooms due to vandalism? Just to get some sort of reference point between bringing contractors in to unclog toilets and fix pieces that generally don't break unless somebody was rough with them, stuff like that, if we could, just to get some sense of, obviously, what are we losing in terms of taxpayer dollars repairing stuff that may not actually be damaged if there's more supervision. So that's my my only input here.
Took away one of my questions, see?
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
one bad
I think-
exercise, because if we're spending
Right.
X for campus aids, swap it in that, yeah.
Right.
I regrettably can't speak to that.
Yeah,
You'll never
I wouldn't
quantify,
expect
you'll
it.
never quantify that.
No.
Projection? Yeah, after 3 years, we can quantify it.
Well, he's been my point is it's been being asked for multiple years. I would imagine we have invoicing that says how many times we've had to bring
Right,
a
but we don't
plumber.
know if the
Well-
campus aid's gonna stop
Oh,
X
no.
number of vapes
Yes.
going down the toilet. It might stop 1, it might stop 1,000.
Yes.
We're never gonna,
I'm
we're
with
never
you
gonna
now.
project that accurately.
Yeah, but I think to the damage standpoint, is it done by our in-house staff, or do we have to contract out? And I think that part of it obviously would be good information to know too. So, we're going to have Carlos and his team maybe start tracking this and to try to fully understand the amount of time being put forth. So I think you can quantify it a little bit. It's going to not be 100% accurate, but at least to understand, like even again, the pictures that I sent out to everybody earlier, you saw those pictures and kind of the vandalism that went on, and Carlos stating that this is once or twice a week. So you know that at a minimum, when Carlos and his staff are doing this, it's got to be at least in a sense an hour of their time to kind of get their supplies, move over, fish out these vapes, and then clean up after themselves, where they could be doing something else far more productive and upkeep for our building. So from that standpoint, right?
Yeah, but I just don't see how many people are gonna stop dropping them in because there's an extra campus aid.
Yeah.
You might just make a more sneaky vapor, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess to that point, and I don't know, and I wish I forgot
We're
to
gonna
look
patent that
before.
phrase,
Yeah, a vape detectors in the bathroom. I'm not sure if that's ever been considered. I don't even know if they exist.
It has. I have given it consideration. I've consulted extensively with principals in the region who have vape detectors in their restrooms. Many of whom have removed them over time. Based on my learning from other principals, I do not believe we will get a good return on investment with vape detectors. Vape detectors are, my understanding, and I don't claim to be an expert in this, but from my communications with other principals in the region, you get an enormous number of false alarms. And one of the most common in a high school setting is kids spraying body spray.
Nice.
Triggering alarms, and what an anecdote that was shared with me that really made a lasting impression from a principal at another school said that the detectors were going off so frequently, right? It was not possible for members of their administrative team to respond to each and every alarm. And over time, they almost became like desensitized to the alarms. It was all day, every day. They were getting alerts on their phone saying that there's an alarm here, there's an alarm there. You know, for the initial weeks, they're chasing down every alarm. They're not coming back with anything to show for it. They can't get through any of their other responsibilities because they're spending all day chasing alarms. So, and what I've also been told from principals, especially those who've put them in and then took them out, is that for the students who were vaping in the bathrooms, it became clear to the students within a matter of weeks that these alarms were not going to result in a higher rate of interdiction. And so there was no deterrent effect that they were achieving. Now, it is possible that the latest generation of sensors are better than the old sensors, and I don't think it's an idea that should be dismissed out of hand, but I have discussed it extensively with regional principals in recent years, and I've not had anyone say, yeah, Josh, I recommend you guys do this in Milford High School. It's been good for us.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I mean, obviously, based on some of the pictures and once or twice a week, it's an obvious problem, you know, and how do we mitigate that? I guess, what are you seeing from a frequency of actually catching students with vaping or vapes on their person?
I'd be happy to run the numbers and get back to the full committee via email with specifics on that. I would say anecdotally, I'd say most weeks we're dealing with 0 conduct referrals for vaping.
Okay.
I'd say that there are, there's some weeks where you get 1 or you get 2. We issue out of school suspensions for students that are in possession of controlled substances at school and students that are using controlled substances at school.
And that would be considered
100%.
Yeah, okay.
100%.
So we're tough enough. That was going to be one of my other questions. Like, and a suspension is tough. It's not.
I am.
You're not losing recess.
I am sometimes beside myself in meetings with my colleagues at other high schools in the regions when I learn about the consequences that they're assigning students for using controlled substances in the schools. Our approach is very, very firm compared to the norms in Massachusetts public high schools in the region, which I'm neither proud of nor ashamed of. In my estimation, this is the appropriate response. As I say to our students at the start of the school year, you do not have the right to subject other students to controlled substances. You do not have the right to deprive other students of the ability to have sanitary, clean restrooms in school. And if you're going to choose to engage in behavior that deprives other students of their rights, you're going to be held accountable in a firm way. It is what I call anti-social behavior. This harms others in the community.
One last thing is going back to the faculty and the duties and just kind of more from the higher level, like when I think about the elementary school, right, I think about staff that has to cover arrival and dismissal, they're covering lunch, they're covering recess. Obviously, the needs here at the high school are different than an elementary school. Can you speak kind of to a high level of what some of those duties are that you need teachers in, I guess kind of why you feel you don't have enough right now, and maybe even to the point where they can't dive in and out of a bathroom super quick just to make sure that we don't see this vandalism or the vapes like we have. And I hate to have professional staff members be these types of bathroom monitors, but it's almost like we need to hit it heavy first right now and then maybe meter it back based on what you said you're coming with us in June.
So we have teachers, we assign teachers to duties in 3 different zones of the building. So I beg your pardon, that's probably not the correct way to characterize it. We have 3 different types of duties. So the first of which is our directed study, and we hold a directed study, which is the contemporary euphemism for study hall. We hold directed study in all 7 blocks of our schedule. So we have, during the school week, there's 28 periods when class is in session. So all 28 periods of the week, we have a directed study. And so during that directed study, I typically have somewhere between 30 to 60 students in the directed study. So we like to have 2 adults assigned to cover the directed study because it's oftentimes well north of 30 students. So that's 28 periods a week. If I put 2 in, that's 56 duty blocks right there. We run 3 lunches a day. And when we have lunch, we've got somewhere between 300 to 400 students in our cafeteria, our caf lobby, and our courtyard. So we do need to have some adult supervision down there in the cafeteria. we try to assign 3 teachers to every lunch. And when I'm happy to get into the minutia if it's helpful.
No,
but,
don't.
a teacher is assigned to lunch duty covers 2 duties.
Right,
It
yep.
covers 2 lunches a day, not 3. So we have 15 lunches a week. If I have 3 staff members on duty for every lunch, that's 45 duties. Again, when a teacher is assigned to 1 lunch duty, they actually cover 2 lunches. So let's just cut it in half. Let's call it 20, right? So that's 20 sort of duty blocks that it takes to cover lunches. And then we want to provide restroom coverage. And that's 28 periods a week. Ideally, we want to provide coverage at our upper A restrooms, at our lower A restrooms. In an ideal world, we would also open up our restrooms by the cafeteria, which we do not open our restrooms by the cafeteria with the exception of the lunch block right now. And I would also like to open our restrooms in the upper C wing, which we do not open right now unless, the only time we open those restrooms is when toilets are out of service and sinks are out of service. We need to open up additional capacity here in the building. As it stands right now with our current staffing allocation, we cover all of our directed study with 2 staff. We assign 3 teachers to every lunch duty, and then with everything that's left over, we assign bathroom duty. I haven't calculated, but I would estimate that we have enough teachers right now to cover bathroom duty in upper A and lower A for approximately 75% of those 28 periods a week. But we don't have enough to cover 100% of the periods. However, we are regularly having teachers who are not serving their duty because they're covering a class because we're short-staffed that day and we don't have enough substitutes to cover our classes, right? So while on our sort of our duty schedule, it might appear as though we're able to cover 75% of the periods for bathroom duties. In practice, on any given week, it's probably closer to 40 or 50%, which means from the student perspective, the majority of the time that you're going to a restroom, you do not see an adult there.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at a way of solving this problem. I don't even know if 3 campus aides is even enough. And I understand, like, based on what you're just saying right now, if you're looking for, you want 100% coverage. You're lucky if you get 40% coverage. So what does 3 campus aides really buy you? And I think that it's an improvement. It would help. I'm just trying to figure out how to, what are our best approach more of changing behavior as opposed to having to chase the behavior, right? And I don't have that answer. I'm just more of making a statement that way, and and how can we as the school committee help support you in your efforts to help create better behavior? And again, and I understand that it's a small group, and I agree with you on that, but it was still, I see it in picture form.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I would offer that when we look for a solution, I think if we define success as the 100% elimination of these behaviors in school, we will not achieve success. I do not believe that's attainable in a high school setting. I do believe it is attainable to bring about a significant reduction in these behaviors, and I think it's important to bring about a significant reduction in these behaviors. In my 15 years in administration, I think that the way that you reduce bad behaviors over time in school is by holding students accountable in a firm and decisive way when they engage in harmful behavior towards others. I'm gratified to hear Mr. Agajani and Mr. Zakili say that, anecdotally, you've heard from my colleagues that they feel that the building is safe. And I'm also gratified to hear you say that, they've talked about sort of the past 5-6 years as being the safest they've experienced. When I came here 8 years ago, regrettably, altercations were a more frequent occurrence 8 years ago than they are today. The reduction in the frequency of altercations I attribute to the fact that the consequences that we assign when students engage in that behavior is firm and proportional to the damage they cause in the community. I don't believe that accountability and discipline brings about fundamental changes in behavior overnight, but I believe that when you stay the course, and you stay the course for a number of years, You rack up incremental gains each year, and then you can look in the rearview mirror 5 years later, and you can say, 5 years later, we're in a much better place than we were 5 years ago. I do believe that that ultimately, if we cannot find a way to hold those accountable who are behaving irresponsibly and behaving harmfully, they're going to continue to do so. I believe that the solution ultimately lies in identifying those responsible and holding them accountable appropriately.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your answers to all my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can add one thing to that too. The consequence part of the youth center, if you're suspended from Milford Public Schools, you're also suspended from the youth center. So that consequence does carry on as well. So I agree with you entirely that the proportional response, it's not just at the school, it affects your ability to hang out with your friends after school as well. So it's really, truly a community effort. So good for your
And I appreciate the youth center, sort of reinforcing that.
Yeah. Thanks. A lot of questions. So going back to correcting behavior, which I agree with you. So has any specific groups of students been identified as the problems? I think you mentioned the men's bathroom the most. Is it primarily boys' bathroom? Is it a sports team? Is there any trend of demographic? You don't have to answer it.
I would say that the problems that we experience in the bathrooms with respect to vaping are gender agnostic. So we get reports of vaping just as frequently from our young women as we do from our young men. With regards to vandalism, we do have reports of vandalism more frequently in the boys' restrooms and the girls' restrooms. Vandalism in our locker rooms with our sports team I'm not aware of that being an issue here at school. Sometimes they need to pick up after themselves a little better than they do, but that's a different matter than vandalism. That's teenage boys.
Yeah, I'm really focused on the vandalism. Have you engaged the resource officer with police to see if there's any creative ways to do some preventative or even have a talk with the student body, or even ask the resource officer to do something? I'm just being creative there.
So, my work with the police department, and our work with the police department stretches across a lot of different areas of concern. Substance use, distribution of controlled substances, and vandalism being amongst those concerns. So we collaborate closely with the police department, particularly when it comes to issues of controlled substances here in school. When it is appropriate to bring criminal charges against students, we do so in collaboration with the police. The police play a very important role in assisting us with investigations. And our school resource officer he very frequently is meeting with students and the guardians of students who we have identified as being at risk by virtue of their behaviors. So in addition to sort of being reactive from a law enforcement perspective, part of the concept of the SRO is that the SRO is something of a counselor, mentor, trusted adult who's really trying to work with students who make a lot of mistakes, right? So we will continue to work closely with the police on this. This is criminal conduct. People are prohibited from bringing controlled substances into our public schools. By law, people are prohibited by law from using controlled substances in our school. People are prohibited by law from damaging public property, right? So these are not just school matters, these are very much, community policing matters, and we will absolutely continue to work with the police hand in hand in trying to respond to this as effectively as we can. I think on the preventative side, in terms of trying to enlist the police, I beg your pardon at the risk of repeating myself. I think the way that we prevent this from happening is by identifying those who are responsible and holding them accountable.
Well, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Is that is there a way to find at least a couple of students that we know, or some of the sort, to say, hey, this is inappropriate?
So we haven't, to the best of my recollection, I do not believe that we've been able to ever identify a student who has been shoving things down toilets, and discipline a student for that.
Yeah, and again, I'm talking about vandalism.
Yeah, we are regularly disciplining students. for vaping. But vandalism, the instances where we've been able to identify perpetrators with vandalism have been the exception, not the rule. It's been very, very difficult.
And they've
for
also
us to
been outside the
identify.
bathrooms, not in the bathrooms, you know, when we.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's generally been.
Sure, yeah, I mean, listen, as I said earlier, we have good camera coverage here, right? So if you're up to mischief outside of the bathrooms, it's gonna be kind of hard to go unseen. But our students know that you're gonna go unseen in the bathrooms. And you are gonna go unseen in the bathrooms, unless we have staff going in and out with a reasonably high level of frequency.
Thanks, Matt. So thanks for coming tonight, Josh. It's really helpful to hear sort of the overall safety context sort of in consideration of the issue that we're addressing. So thank you for that. Just totally anecdotally, I happened to be with a friend this morning. Her son's in a different high school in the region, and she literally was just saying he talks all the time about what a concern vaping is. So it's definitely not a Milford issue. As you know, and as you alluded to, right, we are presented with a ton of district priorities. Most of the headcount ones we did not move forward this year, and I certainly trust that you and the administration, had safety been the concern, this would have been number one and it would have been addressed. So I kind of take that whole context in as we're thinking about this. I just would really encourage you and to work with the team to come up with these creative solutions. So whether it's removing the paper towels, whether it's, you know, really being strong in the first 2 months of school, maybe we do a trial period of aids for the first 2 months to see like if we're really diligent, you know, if we're able to sort of move the behavior away. The other thing I wanted to encourage is, can we involve students more somehow, student government, student athletes, and really sort of create some momentum, you know, around the student body, because it's a student issue. If they can't go use the bathroom, that's disgusting. And so are there other opportunities, you know, to the behavior change that Chris was talking about that we could just think about? So just ways to encourage.
I appreciate that. I would share that, you know, when I first made the request for these positions in December of 2023, that was in direct response to the feedback that I'd received from students on our School Improvement Council and our Student Advisory Council. So I think most of you know that I'm meeting with significant numbers of students on a regular basis here at school to hear from them about what are the parts of their school experience that we need to address. So the students have been quite forthright in bringing it to my attention, and in my conversations with students, and I don't want to sound I don't want to suggest that there is not a role for students to play in the solution. But the message I've heard from students is like, we the students need you, the staff, to take care of this for us, right? This is not something that we feel we can or should be taking care of. Please help us.
For
with
sure.
this.
I think the points we're making, though, if there's a way to identify that small population of troublemakers and really hone in on being there when they're there, following, finding a way to just eliminate the problem as much as we can, because to your point, it's never going to go away entirely. So encourage the continued work on trying to improve it. Thanks, Matt.
All right, John.
Yeah, thank you. What I hear from all this, and what my primary takeaway is this: the Milford High School experience is a very safe experience. I mean, I listened to everything you said. I jotted down a bunch of notes, but I don't want that to be lost on anybody. It's definitely not lost on me. The other thing I think I'm taking away from this, and I've taken away from our budget meetings, is that, you know, if we were to place additional funds and allocate them to campus aids, it's, I think, almost certainly at the expense of equally or high prioritized initiatives. Somewhat safe to say?
100%.
Yeah, so this is not our only challenge, it's just the challenge that's on the table tonight. I don't want that to be lost. And then, sort of separately, to Michael's point about where's the trouble and which bathrooms, can we get like a ticketing report on these? I mean, these must all be logged into our maintenance system. This bathroom, that bathroom, this date,
If we
that
have
day.
it coded that way, I'm sure we could. I don't know if it's coded that way or not. We can check that.
And if it's not, maybe we can change the
flag it.
coding.
Yeah.
Right. Add the code, yeah, definitely.
We can, but I would also highlight, we have a very small number of restrooms open for students as is. So while I can't say with precision how frequently, you know, it's this restroom versus that restroom, it's a short list of restrooms.
Okay.
And regrettably, we've experienced problems in all of them.
Okay.
And what we could do, John, because I think some of these, it's a custodian, you know, unfortunately just scooping out the stuff that's blocking the toilet, and it may not even become a ticket that goes to our maintenance team. But I can have them flag those going forward, just so we have a better sense of that, because we may not be quantifying them as something like that gets addressed by the maintenance team. If that makes sense.
I was thinking it was a maintenance item, and, you know, we're bringing in a plumber to fix the
Well,
problem.
but I think there's two different issues. I think that does happen,
It does.
but I think there's also like a kid drops a roll of paper towels in the toilet or stuffs it up.
Yeah, I don't expect that to be documented. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think some of these are probably just, the guy who happens to be in that section is just cleaning it up that night.
Based on my conversations with our facilities team, I believe that most of the issues are resolved efficiently by our custodians. There are instances in which either our technicians need to get involved or outside contractors need to get involved, but the majority are resolved by our custodians.
To kind of wrap this up on a closing note, one of my thoughts, and actually maybe probably this one, is that we have like 6 weeks left of school this year, or 8 weeks, whatever it is, short time span. So I would encourage you to try some things in this 8 weeks as a trial, and then when we start meeting again in the fall time and we enter budget season, come back to us and, hey, you know what? For a few weeks, we did try to have Craig walk through the bathrooms 5 times a day.
That's
and
that's the best idea you've
I know,
come up
right?
with in all the years you've been on the school
And we
committee.
noticed that there was a trend down in, vandalism, right? So like, if you could come up with some, and I know you have a ton on your plate, but if there's a way to come up with some, experiments or data or something, we tried these 3 things and we think this one might work most, so we can actually start to plan it out, the last few weeks we have.
I will take that to heart, and I will certainly try my best to see what we can do. But I do wish to stress to the committee, for administrative staff for a school of 1,250 teenagers, we're a lean machine up here. This is tight, all right? And responding to conduct issues is but one part of our work here at school. So I respect the sentiment behind it. I also want to be transparent with the committee that I've made these budget requests because I do not know how to do better with the resources that we have. I am open to suggestions and feedback, but I am telling you that I do not know how to do better with the resources that we have.
And this is my point, just to push, is you guys are thin. Coming to us next year saying we need to spend $80,000 on this with no way of working, and we're adding staff. It's hard for us as a committee to just be like, yeah. But if we can get something to say, hey, for 3 weeks we tried X and it worked a little bit, we saw progress, and then
I certainly understand
Yeah.
the value of demonstrating the proof of concept and showing that we're not just going to throw $80,000 at this and hope for the best, but we have some evidence to suggest that we're going to generate a return on the investment. I absolutely appreciate that, and I would love to be able to provide that proof of concept.
Think about it. Thank you.
All right. I think we're good. We're not going to fix this now. So thank you very much for coming. You spent a lot of time with us on this, but I think it was
Of course,
helpful.
it's
So
important. Thank you for your time.
thank you. All right.
Just to kind of-
So that'll take us to agenda item 5, which is a little bit of a change of pace. It's related to electric vehicle charging stations. I'll have Mr. Valori come on up. Stack of papers. Does this get passed around?
Yeah. This, John, you guys get this?
Yeah. No, what is it?
That's
I
good.
got this.
Come around this way. Stop it.
Okay. Thanks.
So while he gets settled, I'll just thank Mr. Valori for coming. He reached out to John about a proposal to potentially have charging stations installed at the school. So that's what he's here to share with us, because I believe it's a time-sensitive thing. So
It is a time-sensitive thing. Before I get into what I'm talking about, are there any questions that I can address before I get into my presentation?
I can be super direct. So obviously we've passed, we just had our budget hearing, so our budget is closed for the season. This was not planned. But I see that it's reimbursed, right? The super direct question is the cost of this. Would this be the burden taken on by somebody else, or would it be on by the school district and then we would be reimbursed for it?
2 answers to that.
I think we need the presentation first, because
Well, he asked me questions.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with it. So, great
that's
question.
great, but
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is it's 2 answers. Number one, my company, in conjunction with what the state and the utilities are offering, will be covering all the costs based upon the current incentive. In the event that the school committee doesn't want to take on any maintenance issues with it or additional man hours, my company will own and operate it, and we'll handle everything for you. The way I look at these charging stations is you're going to have progressiveness within all the schools. I know when I walk through Memorial School and Stacy School, I do see a lot of electric vehicles there, just by the teachers. So it's a potential of a revenue generation. So the school committee will have a slush fund for situations like what Mr. Otland was talking about. And it far above the school system during classes, with the teachers, it's good for students, parents, when they're taking their kids to sporting events. I have 2 electric vehicles. When I'm traveling to different towns, I am charging my car when I'm at the school systems. By my donation, the school system will receive 100% of the profit. So whatever is generated, the profit is very basic. Whatever you charge, minus the electric cost that is incurred, is your profit. In the event that the school system does not want to man these things, which quite frankly there is nothing to man, I will do it, and I will give the school system a 50% profit share. What I will also do, which I find to be very different than most people in the EV industry, is I offer a open book policy, very transparent. So at the end of the year, once my bookkeeper does all the books for the profit or the revenue minus the expenses, I will provide it to the school committee, and you guys can validate what the profit is. So long story short, there is essentially no cost incurred. Out of pocket for installation, all covered based upon the current incentive. Potentially whatever additional costs are, I will cover to a certain number. Anything else before I get into it?
I was
I
like,
think you should.
far away.
Yeah, we should definitely get it.
All right. So the state of Massachusetts, in conjunction with the utility, both National Grid, Eversource, and all the small municipal electric companies, are really pushing progressiveness with electric vehicles throughout the state of Massachusetts. We are on a incentive which is called the Mass EVIP. That is specific for the level 2 charging stations. For people who are unaware of electric vehicles, you have the level 1, which for lack of a better term is just an extension cord, which doesn't do anything for you. It's like having a trickle charger on your lawnmower or a motorcycle. It's not going to do much. The level 2 chargers are what most people have at their house, okay? And in the level 3 chargers is the superchargers, which most people identify as the Tesla superchargers. The Tesla superchargers are proprietary towards Tesla. I can do the level 3 chargers. Unfortunately, that incentive with National Grid and Eversource was filled up within 9 months. So the few municipalities that I did present that to did get those charging stations. Everybody else did not. There was a huge waiting list. So I have a continuous waiting list for that. The level 2 chargers, however, are, as I stated, perfect for the school systems, ball fields, Legion Field. You know, I've spoken to Scott Cristofori about Bottolato or the Fino Pool, you know, stuff like that. It's just anywhere somebody's going to be for 2-3 hours plus is a great opportunity. You're just going to park the car, charge, and go from there. When you talk about maintenance, there is nothing. The level 3 chargers, there was maintenance on there because you're dealing with 3-phase power. What we're dealing with the level 2s is single phase. For what you guys don't know, whoever doesn't know what that is, just coming out of your house or the building. The only real problems you're going to have would be vandalism. And as we just heard from Mr. Otland, there's vandalism everywhere. You know, it could be in your neighborhood, in the school system. So as long as we take care of it. As far as requirements, like anything else, the DPW will have to plow, shovel, clean, because most people here, I assume, have a vehicle, and you're not going to want to park your car if there's leaves and twigs and snow and stuff like that. But this is a great revenue generator for the schools. With that being stated, I've kind of thrown everything out. I'm not going to have a long dissertation on this because most people understand what's going on with the evolution of electric vehicles.
Go ahead.
I think this is a great idea. I definitely support it. I do have a couple questions just for clarification. So the maintenance, obviously, you're saying is virtually none, but do you have any software issues in terms of that you have to have an internet connection for payment, things of that nature that do require maintenance, and then hardware related to the computer in the actual unit?
So one of the things that I guess I should have talked about before you got to that question is that some of the charging stations do charge a monthly or yearly fee. I have worked out a relationship with the charging stations in, I don't want to use the word convince, but we do it, they now change their concept to a fee per charge, if you would. So for example, if you'll see on my sheet on the second page, the charging cost is 50 cents. You guys can charge whatever you want. The charging station takes 10% of that. So 50 cents turns into 45 cents. That 5 cents is now covers the credit card fee, the Wi-Fi connection, and also 24-hour customer service for the person charging in the event something doesn't work. Okay? The charging stations are warranted for 5 years. However, like anything else, labor is not. Does that answer your question?
That's my question.
Okay.
John?
Yeah, what's the basic proposal? You're looking to put how many stations at which school?
We can put them at any school. The charging stations, what the current incentive allows us to install 2 dual port charging stations, which allows 4 cars to charge at once,
So you're proposing,
as many as you want.
So-
As
so
long as the incentive doesn't fill up. So that's gonna be the big thing. I know you guys are coming towards the end of your season, if you would. Making a decision like this is gonna be tough, but it's for my favorite words, the letters, F-R-E-E. Who's not gonna say yes to something that's free?
that's the problem.
That's true. The other question, in terms of placement, would you want it near the building itself or far away from the building or wherever it's convenient?
So that's a combination of wherever you guys want it per se, but you do want to have it close to electricity
It's helpful.
because the longer
Longer
run you
that
have,
wire
the
is-
potentially more cost it's going to be.
Of
And
course.
like I said, there's only so much I'm going to be able to absorb.
Sure.
As far as identifying where you want them, I'm happy to walk the schools or the locations you want. We can identify that together. I do recommend 2 charging stations per port or 2 per school.
Yep.
So you get 4 cars can charge at once. I am not going to say that you should put them in what's considered elite parking. Okay, so, you know, put it somewhere not off the beaten path, but you don't want to have it front row.
So if I can just, before we could even get off the ground on this, if we wanted to go forward with this, we'd have to go to planning board for site plan approval, right? Nick and I have had that conversation in my day job role. The town is already considering it at certain locations. I don't know if the town's, the town being the town hall, the highway department, Fino, or anybody else is going to move forward, but if we do have to, revise it, amend our site plans that are approved at each school, if there even is one for our older schools. So this isn't just, all right, sounds like a great idea, put them in, this is the cost. So it's a bigger, longer process if we do want to move forward with that. I just wanted to make everybody aware of that.
In regards to John's statement, I want to let you guys know, it's also not, okay, I want to move forward and we install it. So we move forward, we do a site walk, we have to submit to the Mass EVIP along with National Grid. National Grid and Mass EVIP have estimated that the flow of charging stations being submitted at this point in time, the approval is going to be within 2 to 3 months. From that 2 to 3 months, once we get the approval in, we present it to the school committee. The school committee will then have to sign off on it. From there, we can install within 1 to 2 weeks. So in regards to your statement, I would say that if you wanted to move forward, we can move forward now, and I'm not saying right now, just identifying the factor here. And you guys will have, for lack of a better term, 3 months before whatever decision needs to be made. So if we did move forward with everything, and then once the pre-approvals did come over, and then you said, we can't do it here, but we'll do it here, we just throw the ones out that you don't want. I can tell you that the people that did receive the incentive for the level 3 incentives, that decided against it, have come back to me and have realized it was a huge mistake. Each one of these charging stations equates to about $50,000. I'm sorry, each grouping. So 2 charging stations, 4 ports, with all the infrastructure and equipment, equates to about $50,000. Now, I'm not saying I'm giving you $50,000, it's all part of the incentive. But it would be a tough decision to
That might be your
digest.
campus aides right there.
Yeah. It'd be a tough decision to digest, to not accept it. And a year, 2 years, you guys move forward, and the incentive is now not 50,000, but 25,000. I don't know if I can digest $25,000 per location or per school system, and then you guys don't take advantage of it. If you look at the back page of this flyer I gave you, is a rough estimate as to the generation or revenue generation you guys can receive. The low utilization is factored on 6 people charging per day for what they call an average charge. An average charge in the EV world is 50% of your, when your batteries are 50%, you're charging to 80%. Which basically, on most EVs, is a half a day. 3 hours, pardon me.
These estimates
Depending upon your battery.
one grouping.
Yes, sir. So just at the high school, if we put 2 charging stations, 4 chargers, you charge at 8 in the morning, by noontime, whoever's charging has to get out. You can put on there what they call an idle fee, very normal for Teslas, all right? The idle fee gets very expensive, so it encourages you to get off. So if you have 4 people charging in the morning, 4 people charging in the afternoon, you're at that number. And then after school, sports, it's a really a great revenue generator. And you're progressive. Go ahead, Megan.
I think it's more a question for John. Sorry, Nicholas. Is this something the town's sort of considering? Like, would it end up being a town sort of mandate or direction, John? Or do you envision departments?
It's sort of sub-separate. The school
Okay.
can move forward with it, or the town can, or both can, but they're not, as far as I know, they're not tied together.
Okay, thanks.
So when you install, say, what is the rough cost of the installation?
It's very hard to tell.
I'm sure there's an average.
Yeah, well, you got the 50,000, so the 50,000 is pretty much.
So 50,000 is the incentive coming back from the state to
Equipment, installation,
cover
permitting, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, so up to, right? So say if we said yes tonight, just for fun, and the process would be, so would we be contracting with you to do the installation? And then as far as the incentive or the rebate, whatever we would call it, so you would go ahead and move forward. So would that money come directly from the state to you, or would it come from us and then we would reimburse you?
I take care of everything.
Okay.
So there is nothing you guys need to do other than provide the electrical bills for the locations you want, approve the documentation that I send over as a proposal. When Mass EVIP and National Grid send over the approval, you sign that, and then you're identifying, yes, you want to move forward, and everything else is done by me. I front the money to buy the equipment, pay the contractors, then once it's all approved by the utility, I get refunded for whatever it may be.
The reason I'm asking of the value, and this may be for a when question at some point, is that, would this have to go out to bid, right? So would we have to bring in some other people who could, do the incentive and just kind of talk them through the process?
You're more than welcome to bring it in, bring it to bid, but the municipalities that have moved forward have confirmed, and I was speaking to one today, actually questioning why other municipalities aren't moving forward or even calling him. And this municipality is Chelmsford. Because the way that they're viewing it is that it's a donation, so there is no bid needed. Furthermore, and I forget the article number, but I believe it's anything under $300,000 does not need to go to bid, and that's per location. So where this is gonna be about a $50,000 opportunity per location, it also is below the threshold of a requirement of a bid.
Yeah, so the benefit to you is to us to say yes, and you're the installer basically, and you get paid by the state, that's where you make your money. Installing, once it's installed, we now own it.
If you opt to.
Right, and then we have that warranty, and then, you know, if there is something wrong, we would reach out to you to come fix it, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, if it's a donation, we would now own that piece of equipment, correct?
Again, I give you two options. You can own it, which I strongly recommend you do.
Hmm.
If you don't want to own it, I'll own it, and I will do a profit share of 50%. If I own it, I cover it. Very similar to your house that you have,
Yeah.
right? If something breaks, you fix it, right? There could be a warranty on whatever product you have, but you have to pay for the labor. It's going to work exactly like that. If you rent and I own the property, whatever breaks, I have to fix it. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I just, I don't have experience with somebody else owning a piece of equipment on a, like, public land, right? So that's why I was.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm
it's a
just,
little weird.
it's just more of the true concept of it, right?
Yeah.
If you own something, you have to fix it. You take care of it. I give everybody the opportunity, I'll own it. I look at these things as a great opportunity for revenue. It's also great to show how progressive the town is.
Thank you.
Both of you.
Go ahead.
Mine's quick. Just another consideration. These will have to be in a handicap accessible location.
Yeah,
So-
the level twos are required for ADA compliance. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that means they'd have to go out in front, right? Primary entrance.
Well, you have entrances front and back for
Yeah,
ADA, like here at the school.
You do, but I mean, that's the primary entrance of the whole
Right.
building, so that's where it would have to go, I
Yeah.
believe.
Well, I think, yeah.
Could also get a variance from the.
For planning purposes, though, would you even consider putting it at the high school if the parking lot's not gonna be
Right,
there in 4
exactly,
years?
right. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
Would this be a great little project for the city subcommittee to figure out
Love it.
recommendations?
Probably.
Potentially,
I mean,
yeah.
like,
So, I guess my questions, and thank you for coming in to present, I appreciate it. You know, I guess first and foremost is this committee the ones that has the approval power to get that? I guess I'm not clear on that, so I think we should go back to the town attorney, just to make sure that we do have that approval power. I guess my other question to you would be, where's the rest of the town in this process? Have you presented to other departments?
I've presented to most departments.
Okay.
Most departments are on board. John has been doing a lot. And I think there is one hurdle that we have to get past, which he was already talked about.
Yes.
So I think that he'd probably be the best person to talk to on that. But
Yeah.
I can tell you that the majority of the departments that I have spoken to are on board and do want to move forward.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and I think overall, I like the idea. I like the concept. One, obviously, like I said, is do we have the authority? We know at a lot of our schools, the parking capacity needs to be strongly considered. Obviously, if we know that staff has electric vehicles, then we can accommodate them. If no staff, just say, for instance, 0 staff has electric vehicles, and you put 4 charging stations at Brookside, we lose 4 parking spots, and we're already parking everywhere that we can there. So we got to be very careful of that. I'm also, and again, this is all very premature, and if we go down this road, these are more questions that will get firm up answers. I'm just more making statements right now. Just the whole process of where do we tap power from, and how is that going to work, and who is the responsibility, right? So the power doesn't get from inside the school out magically, right? So there is some infrastructure that's going to have to be worked through, and part of that process, and we'll speak to that. So, Mike, as you're saying, maybe the facility subcommittee, talks to that at a more detail without spending the time here. Planning board, yeah, we are, whenever we find that a parking lot's being redone, we ask that tenant, that owner to put in conduit for charging stations. So even throughout the town, planning board, right, we're looking to kind of spearhead that. So like I said, it's a good idea overall. And I guess that last part will be as when I think about parking capacity, and then who truly determines where those spots are going to be, right? Is that our board that says, okay, yeah, we're on board with putting in EV stations, but we want them here, here, and here? Or is it the vendor? Again, so these are questions that I just want to put out there. I don't expect answers tonight, but we'll formulate that. But again, good idea, a lot of questions still.
If you don't mind, I'd like to address pretty much every one of your questions.
You don't have to tonight, just because I don't think we're going to vote.
I'm not looking
per
to vote,
se.
I just think it's good.
If
came up
you
some
want
questions,
to,
so-
I'll defer to the chair if you,
Yeah.
Please.
on timing.
I think it's good that you brought up the questions. I think we should talk about them, so it's at least in everybody's ear. How much you retain of it is a total different story, okay? So if you don't mind, can you just regurgitate your first question, and I can address it?
All right, so the first question is, let's see, tapping power, how that's going to happen.
So tapping the power, when we do our site visit, we can tap the power either from the building, or we drop a brand-new line.
Okay.
Okay? Ultimately, it's all going to be determined and confirmed by the utility, but we can make the suggestion based upon where you guys want the charging stations. But again, that is primarily all covered within what I'm putting to offer to you guys.
Okay. And then, yeah, that might also be part of who determines the location.
Primarily you guys.
Okay.
The school committee would determine that. I will make my own suggestions based upon where we can pull power.
And also, we got to make sure, and it may depend, again, where you're saying more of the site visit is, can the school support it, or are we going to need to come straight off the poles? So again, that's
Which-
that part
that's
of
all-
the
yeah.
process.
That's all stuff that we do figure out. Whether we can figure it out right then and there, or the utility has to figure it out based upon the capacity issue. I have not come across any capacity issues with any level twos. So most of the time, we're just pulling it from the building, or we're dropping a line.
Thank you.
You didn't miss one question you did bring up, which is parking. I
Yeah,
live
yeah.
in the area of Memorial School in Stacy, so I do walk my dog through the Stacy School. And I can tell you, if you just walk through that school, you will look at how many muffler-less cars are there. And if you walk through a car and you don't see a muffler, that is an electric vehicle.
Of course.
And there are a large number. I should be walking through Memorial School and just going back there, but I just
Yeah.
always go one way.
No, I understand. And yeah, and I think capacity is more our issue and less on you, right? That we have to fully understand that, you're here to propose, these EV stations, and less worried about parking. Us, we need to make sure our staff is supported, so
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah, one last question. Let's just say that we decide to purchase our own electric vehicles for student transportation. Can we get a better, would we basically charge ourselves the same rate that we charge someone else to charge overnight, for
Yeah,
example? How would it be, could we fluctuate the rate so that way when we plug in, we're getting?
You can always do that.
Okay.
You can always do that. One of the things that I would suggest if you do get electric buses or something, however you want to look at it.
Love to get those.
Yeah, I would suggest
3 years
that
now.
we do not do that and have different prices. I'm going to joke with everybody here. Does everybody pay for Netflix? Do your parents pay for Netflix, or do they take your password? The moment that you have a password on something like this, the password gets out. So instead of paying, in this example, 50 cents a kilowatt hour, they're paying 25 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the electric price.
Right.
So unfortunately, doing something like that, you start to lose control. I don't recommend that. When there is just call it electric bus, okay? We put different charging stations at wherever we house the buses. And then at that point in time, you can charge.
That's a really is kind of like a separate thing you'd want to just.
Yeah, that's how I would recommend doing it,
That's fair.
you know.
All right.
I just want to say thanks for coming, Nicholas.
Thank
The
you.
presentation's great. I think it's 2025. This is a great direction for us to head as a community. I'd love to make a motion for the facilities subcommittee to consider moving this forward and bring back a recommendation.
All right, motion by Megan and second by Brendan to have facility subcommittee add this to Chris's
Sorry.
very short list. All in favor?
It's 5 to 2.
Why
I mean,
this
it's
is facilities
partially my
subcommittee?
problem, but it's really Chris's problem now. Thank you.
So,
All right.
just in regards to, I'm happy to attend the facilities meetings.
Sure.
And, really be a big part with us.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Any other questions, my contact information's on the flyers, so you can just kick me an email or a phone call or what have you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for coming.
And Nick, just so you know, the facility subcommittee is myself, Chris, and Matt, and we typically meet during the day, so
Yeah.
it's not gonna be a Thursday night.
That's perfect. I can arrange my time, to accommodate all this stuff with you guys, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like we need a drum roll or something.
All right, I was gonna say, now on to, it probably should have made this the first one, sorry.
Yeah.
Fail.
All right, well, this does bring us to item 6, which is the introduction of the next Milford Public School Superintendent. So, I'm sure the committee has other words, but they also very much join me in having great confidence and excitement in announcing the appointment of Dr. Craig Consigli as the next superintendent of Milford Public Schools, effective July 1st, 2025. Obviously, Dr. Consigli has been a lifelong educator here in the district. He's been here about 27 years now and has shown a deep commitment to Milford and the community. He's going to be succeeding Dr. McIntyre, whose leadership and continued support during this transition is also very much appreciated. So with that, congratulations formally. I'll open it up to anybody else who has comments, statements, thoughts. Well, the silence is great. Megan, go ahead.
I'll just say we're thrilled, Craig. I think it's a great, next step for us. Thank you, Dr. McIntyre, for all the leadership you've provided, and really excited for what's to come. So thanks for stepping up.
I'll go.
Good, go ahead. Yeah, go right around if you guys have something to say.
No, I just want to, thank you for your interest in this. I have full confidence in this. As, we went through, we looked at whether or not to, promote from within or look outside. And I just want to say you've been performing exceptionally here for whatever, 25, 27 years, 23 years. You've excelled in every role. And I just have great confidence in you. I'm glad to welcome you aboard in the superintendent capacity.
Congratulations. Glad you were taking the next steps in the leadership role. Obviously, as John said, you've been a part of this district for many years, and have served in many capacities. So looking forward to this next phase, this next era, and taking all that knowledge that you've built up through the years and extending it upon to the students, the staff, and here at school committee. So again, congratulations and
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Just a short congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you.
All right.
Go.
Thank you, Dr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Dr. McIntyre.
All right, well, we'll go right on to item 7, which is chairperson update. I have nothing, so we'll skip that one. Move on to the report of the superintendent of schools.
All right, this is one of my, I think, last 3. But who's counting? So 3 quick updates for the committee tonight. The first one is the MHS MSBA update. We've received the feasibility study agreement from the MSBA. Our town attorney is currently reviewing it, and the MSBA board will vote on it at their June meeting. You have a sheet at your tables that basically gives the timeline of the entire project, or at least a rough timeline of the entire project, so you get a sense of kind of what we've done and where we're going. And what you can see is, although the feasibility study was a significant milestone to get past, like it's the first in probably a 12-round prize fight. So we're just starting the process. But we're on time and we're moving forward, which is great. The next steps are the feasibility study and schematic design, which will take place for most of the 25-26 26 school year, and I think a little bit beyond that, because we don't start until August of this year. I think it's August 14th was the day we talked about last night, where it officially kind of kicks off. The first task of that process is selecting an owner's project manager, and the chair of the building committee has selected a subcommittee to kind of take on that role. I'll be kind of leading the charge through that part of the process in terms of, doing the paperwork required by the MSBA. We'll be posting it on the central register, and then we'll be following a selection process. It's pretty well regulated, as is everything with the MSBA. But very exciting. We're on to the next. We're close to being on to the next phase of the project. But everything that we've had to do, except for that last signature, is done for the eligibility period, and then we jump into the next phase of the process. And it seems like a long time when you see, 2030 next to something. It seems like we should be building a spaceport, but it's going to come by quicker than you all think. It goes by very quickly. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. Or if Michael or Chris want to add anything based on attending the meeting.
Quickly, we're very excited. The reimbursement rate was an exciting point, too, at 72.5%. So basically the monies that we put aside for feasibility, which was $2.5 million, we're getting 1.8 back from the state, which is great. So that's a real positive. The next date is that June 18th, right? That's the next meeting. So that's the one that we're really looking forward to. And that owner's project manager, that will be someone that when we go out and we'll in a sense interview and look for a scope, that person will work for us, and that person will kind of be the knowledgeable person to kind of know the MSBA process, but understand how to help us navigate that. So that's going to be a very important person through the process, and the clarity of knowing that we have somebody that we have, in a sense, on our staff that we're paying, that's going to be a part of this process to help us navigate, because we know there is some complex steps to it all.
All right, thank you.
All right, next up, the MHS roof. We've received quotes from 3 vendors to complete the roof assessment this summer. The goal is to get that done in July. The repairs are taking place for the identified problem areas for the roof at the end of next week. One of the delays was they're a new vendor, and there was just some issues in bringing them on board. So they could get paid, which is understandable. They want that ahead of time.
Thank you.
But everything's moving along as it should be there. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I think we've talked about this a fair amount. The next piece is the Brookside modular repairs. So the repairs on the floor and the connection between the new major pieces of the modular addition were completed last week, or during the school vacation week, which is one of the major projects. The second major project that was completed was the drainage issue was also addressed and completed. What's left are a few little minor things, and these are always the trickiest to kind of get done because they're such small projects. Carlos is on it. I don't have a timeline yet from him, but the 3 things, I think it's 3 things that need to still get done are the second access point on the floor and the electrical component for the crawl space, and replacing external door seal gaskets which have failed and need to be replaced. But those are the last 3 things. The 2 big things are done, which is great. And just these last 3. And once I have a timeline on that, I'll just give a report out. But very pleased with the progress that happened over school vacation week. And that's what I have. Unless people have questions on that.
Any thoughts on that?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to report of the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give you a brief update on access testing. We just got the results back. Access testing is what all of our English language students do for their assessment. That happens over the month of January, basically. We had 1,501 students participate in access testing this year. It's our highest number ever.
That's about 33% of our student population.
I'm also pleased to say that we had our highest number of Ls meet reclassification at 228 students this year. There were 44 students between Brookside and Memorial. And just to put that in perspective, typically for kids to reclassify, you usually see it around Woodland, around somewhere in the 3 to 6 year range, I would say. Woodland, 139 students reclassified, 46 students at Stacy, and 16 students at Milford High School. It's important to note for the public that on May 7th in the auditorium here, Jen and her staff will be going over how to read the access and understand the scores at the impact meeting. Just some other related data. And this is, I guess, in regard to the declining EL student population that we've talked about before. In December of 2024, so just this past December, we had 1,607 students. As of April 1st, 1,557 students, decrease of 50 students, pre-K to 12. At the end of this month, just yesterday, we had 1,536 students, another additional decrease of 21 students in just 28 days. With the current reclassification of 228 L students to FEL in year 1 and the grade 12 graduating class of 55 English learners, that equals 1,253 students. We then had 34 students join us between February and then our incoming K numbers, which are at this point 91. That's the total number we have right now. So as of yesterday, the district anticipates 1,378 English learners for next year. But of course, that's who knows who's coming in between now and the start of the school year. Typically, we see a number of students come in over the summer. So that's just a quick update on English language learners so far.
Excellent, thank you. Brings us to the report of the school business administrator.
Thank you. Before I go into FY25 budget, I want to thank you for voting the budget for FY26, and thank you everyone to guide me through, in my first year, and the guideline is the first thing. I appreciate everybody's effort on that, and just from building the budget and approving the budget, and everyone asked many smart questions, and that's great. And I also want to thank you, thank the principals and the district directors, and they're super transparent, and we had numerous meetings, and they are they provide a lot of historical information, which is very helpful in building the budget. So it's a collective effort, and I really appreciate everybody. So so this year, FY25, the link document is showing you the balance. Remaining balance is 452,000, and it looks good. It's pretty healthy at this point. Because last report was April 1st. The balance was 650-ish thousand, and we have 2 months to go. And the remaining the balance will cover whatever the salaries is not encumbered, bus drivers, bus monitors, tutors, substitute, and also the outstanding facility maintenance and the repair requirement, and also out of district transportation and tuitions. Anything would happen during this 2 months. Yes?
What do you think will end the year with?
What do I think?
Yeah, just rough. Yeah.
I don't know.
Is this a
Dollar
game?
amount?
Are we gonna go over or under?
There is.
We're probably gonna be right there.
$16.
So I want to give a little credit to to Kevin
Don't be wrong.
for the past year of pushing the committee and reminding us how tight the budget is and tight the budget is. So
Looking tight.
again, thank you for doing that, and thank you, Wen, for keeping tight books. And I'm glad we're going to be decently okay.
And to the district,
knock on
right?
the wood.
Everyone else taking that to heart.
Yeah, no, I think people took it seriously. Like,
Mm.
you know, the spending was very different this year than it has been in the past, you know, and I think, you know, and I gotta say, like, not only did Wen do a phenomenal job managing her first budget, but she also did a great job communicating with all the principals and directors and having really frank and honest conversations with, like, you know, this is what you have, you're over here, you know, and it was very respectful, and I think, you know, people really responded to that too. And, you know, I saw a stream of people coming into her office, and, you know, most of them left crying, which is okay. But no, she did a great, in all seriousness, she did a great job, really kind of working with the principals and department heads to make sure that in a tight budget year, and I think next year's gonna be the same thing, potentially even a little tighter, you know, managing within our means, you know, and we had a number of, like we do every year, a number of challenges came up over the course of the year, and that's always gonna happen. One thing that you can predict is that unpredictability. You just can't say where it's gonna happen. But yeah, so I would say she exceeded my expectations for a first year in the role, and this is a very complex district, multi-layered, a lot of variables that, you know, a lot of other districts don't have to deal with. So she did a great job.
Excellent.
Yeah, just
Sure.
two quick questions.
Yeah.
Can you speak high-level athletics being in the red?
Yes, mostly because of the stipend. So 54,000 was because of the secretary salary was charged to this account, but the budget wasn't there.
So 54.
So I should have, for the last round of budget transfers, I should have transferred the budget, but it didn't.
Okay.
I missed that one. And the rest are because of the stipends was under budgeted.
All of the
The coaches.
coaches stipends, so
Yeah.
$150,000 worth of.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's from postseason stipends that you're talking about, or just in general?
In general, throughout the year, 3 seasons.
Did we see that last year?
So I think
It's-
what
Or in
Wen has
previous
done,
years?
what
The
Wen has
budget
done
was
this
lower
year-
than last year too.
Yeah, what
So
Wen
I
has
was
done this year
surprised.
is tried to categorize things where the expenses lie.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I think you're going to see a few overages in places because they were probably accounted for in other areas. And I think that's really one of the things, I should have included that. That's one of the things she really accomplished, is she's really connected. I don't think it's 100%, you wouldn't say that, but it's significantly better where the expenses are tied to.
Yeah, I had lots of conversations and asking why certain percentages had changed in double digits, and
Yeah.
a lot of that was just more from a personnel movement around, which
Yes.
seemed very justified. It was
Yeah.
just, this one point there. And then my only other question is, all the circuit breaker offsets, are those estimates or those actuals? And down all the last bits, so circuit breaker, offset tuition, transportation, the very last, like, 4 items, 5 items. Are those, I'm just curious if they were estimates or actuals?
They are close to actual.
Okay.
Yeah, very close.
Right.
So I applied 3/4 because we only received 3/4 so far. So I left out the fourth quarter.
So these numbers are a 3/4 reimbursement?
And yes.
With okay.
So if you see the tuitions, now they're in positive because I already transferred the
Yes.
3/4, and we still have fourth quarter to apply to the as offset,
Okay.
and it's very close to actual.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else on the 25 budget update? Okay.
And then the personnel update, just for your reference.
All right, thank you very much for your update.
Here's your big moment, Matt.
A big moment again. I'm not even going to pause this time. We're just going right through it. So the consent agenda tonight has a handful of things. We'll start with the warrants. There are 9 warrants in the amount of $332,114.31. The approval of minutes from the April 17th, 2025 open session. That's approval and release. The approval only of the April 17th, 2025 executive session. There's professional development totaling $7,904.80. There are 2 grants in the amount of $36,000, and then there is one gift for $1,000 from Alliance Energy LLC, and it is for STEM programs.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Megan to approve, second by Brendan. All in favor? Thank you. Subcommittee updates? Anybody meet?
I don't think so.
Sick.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we don't give sick bank updates.
Sick bank met. Update over. Excellent.
But I love your enthusiasm.
He was so excited.
That was his big moment. Very good.
Nice try, Sobers.
Future agenda
I
items.
do have like a, I guess, new business, which apparently not here, but, or a thought. I know in the past, I don't know, year or two, we've talked about doing office hours again. I'd like to try that for school committee. Talk to Derek, he'd be interested. I have some ideas. I don't think we need to vote anything, but I'd like to work
Okay.
with at least Derek. If anybody else is interested, reach out to me. But I think I had an idea that, you know, we actually reach out to some PTOs and every so often, maybe every other month or whatnot, we do school committee office hours and come to their PTO meeting and do something. I don't know. So, want to try some new things with just office hours.
All right. Anything else? Cool. We do not have executive session tonight, so that can bring us to ending this meeting, and all we need is a motion to adjourn. Motion by Derek.
You guys got it.
Second by Michael. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Good night.